Hello book people, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me for another video. Today I am participating in the mid-year freakout book tag, which probably everybody's posting their videos now. I don't know if mine is considered late, but I am not going to care about that. I'm not going to worry about that because I'm making it now, I'm posting it now, and that's what I want to do. It's June, so June is the month to do it. If you don't know what the mid-year freakout is, it's usually when all of the booktubers or, just the book content creators will essentially go through a list of questions to talk about their favorite books in the year, their least favorite, anticipated reads. Basically, it's a bunch of bookish information that pertains to the novels they have read this year and that they want to read. So it's fun because you get to see what people have read and what's on their TBR and what they did and didn't like. And obviously this is my first time participating in it because I just created my YouTube channel, not even a month ago at this point. But I thought it'd be fun to participate in. I've seen people do this tag for a couple years, pretty much as long as I've been watching booktube videos, which has been a few years now. So I thought, why not participate in it myself? And as for the questions that I'm using, I will tag the video that I saw someone else use as their source because I don't really know where I should be finding these things. So I watched one of my favorite booktubers and I saw that she was talking about the video that she got them from, and I'm just going to tag the one that she tagged because I think that that's probably the most accurate source I can find. I don't know if everyone else uses the same one, but that's the one I'm using and it's going to be in the description. So without further ado, let's get into all of the books that I'm going to talk about today. Also, side note, if you start to hear some rain in the background, it's getting a little gloomy outside. It looks like it's going to start raining, so I apologize if there's a little bit of background noise. I can't really help that because I'm filming now, so that's just how it's going to be. But I don't know. I personally don't mind the rain, but I just wanted to give a warning. So the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2024. I do not have the book physically with me, but I did read it in a physical copy. But I would say that my favorite book so far this year has been Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. It blew me away, and I thought it was so fun, and it was really a big jump for me in terms of fantasy because I read the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas, which I loved, but Priory of the Orange Tree just sort of entirely elevated what fantasy writing is, in my opinion. It's a really, really thick book. I believe it's over 800 pages, which I had read longer when I read that book, but that was still a huge achievement to get through it. And I thought that every single page was worth it. And also it was a gift to me, so it was a little bit more sentimental because I got through it and I was like, wow, it was a nice gift and I really enjoyed it and I just felt like I had really achieved something. But I don't know, that's been one of the most memorable reads and also just one of the best books that I'd say because, I've read a lot of books this year and nothing has really gotten to me as much as that one did. As for best sequel, I have two, and one of them is Namesake by Adrienne Young, which, if you don't know, this is part of a series, I believe it's a series and not just a trilogy, called Fable, and it's a YA pirate series, and it's really, really fun. You follow a character named Fable, and she is, in the first book, is stranded on this island, and she is a dredger and she's just kind of trying to make it alone on this island, and you sort of follow her as she makes her way out of her situation. And then this is a continuation of that where you see her working with some familiar characters and going through some new conflicts. That was crazy thunder. I wonder if you heard that. I really hope that the thunder isn't too loud while I make this. But yeah, I thought that this was really fun. I rated this and Fable 3 stars, but I think about them a lot. And I was like, when I read Fable, I was like, it was okay. I'm not going to read the second one. And then I saw that they had released new copies with sprayed edges, which honestly, the yellow sprayed edges is not my favorite. The Fable, the paperback Fable had blue sprayed edges. Anyway, I didn't get that one because I have it in hardback. Although I lost the dust jacket, I don't know where it is. And so after I read Fable, I was like, I'm not going to read Namesake. I don't really think that, I'm interested enough. And then I couldn't stop thinking about Fable because I love pirates. I love the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, which, I mean, that's sort of like a basic thing to say. Like, I like pirates, and then I've only seen the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But this was just such a fun read because it was something I had never really read before. So I picked up Namesake, and then I read it, and I finished it, and I was like, probably not going to pick up the third one. And then I was at the store the other day. I didn't buy it, but I was looking at it, and I was thinking, you know what? I think I might actually want to pick that up. So I don't know. I thought this was a really good sequel. I thought that it was just as strong, if not even a little stronger than the first one. Again, I rated them 3 stars, but I kind of regret that now. They're probably more of a 4. Not a 5, but at least like a 4, 3.5. They're really, really fun. And I would say this is probably one of the best sequels to a book that I've read so far this year. And the next book I literally finished yesterday is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, which I literally finished yesterday. And oh my gosh, it's weird. I have this like weird situation that I find myself in where I'll finish a book and I'll know that there's another one and I'll be like, I didn't really like that enough to pick up the second one. And then it will get so stuck in my brain that I have to read the second one. Because I finished Divine Rivals and I was like, that was not my favorite. I think I rated it a 3 stars. I was like, that just is not, I didn't really vibe with it all that much. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I had to read the second one. And I read it on my Kindle and I finished it yesterday. And I think I like Divine Rivals better, but I think that Ruthless Vows worked really, really well. And I rated it a 4, which is a higher rating than Divine Rivals, so I think that my Divine Rivals rating needs to go up a little bit. I read them both this year as well. And I don't know, like Ruthless Vows just really worked for me. I thought that it was a really good sequel, and I thought that it was just as interesting as the first one, and I think that it felt really fresh. I really liked, I'm not a big like historical or like war novel type of person, but there was something about the way that this book was written and the way that the writing of the war was sort of approached that I really appreciated, and I thought that it was just so much fun. And I think that with those books in particular, I really connected to the characters. So reading the second one was just like, at a certain point it became a no-brainer for me, even though I was hesitant to pick it up. There was a certain point where it just sort of clicked and I was like, okay, I think I need to read this. So yeah, I would say that those 2 are probably the best sequels that I've read so far this year. The third question is new release that you have not read yet, but you want to. When I say that I have never run to the bookstore faster, and that book was Leather and Lark by Brynne Weaver. If you don't know, this is part of the Butcher and Blackbird series, which is currently coming out. I think it's supposed to be a trilogy. This is the second book, and it follows Lark and Rowan's brother, I think, Lachlan Kane. So I loved Butcher and Blackbird. It really surprised me. I listened to it as an audiobook, and that was my first audiobook ever, which was a really, really great experience, I thought. And yeah, I saw that this came out, and I immediately purchased it, and I posted about it, and Brynne Weaver herself commented on my post about it, so that's pretty cool. I thought, you know, fellow Canadian lady, who writes really great books commenting on my post, you know, my heart was just like so happy after that. But I cannot wait to read this. And I am finishing up Night Bitch right now, and then after that I think I'm picking this up immediately. I keep saying that like I have this list that I want to go off of, but I think that this takes precedent because it's just like what I need. So that is the new release that I want to read. The fourth question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I kind of had to look for this one because usually I'm not really on top of up and coming books or, you know, like books that are to be released. I've never really been someone who like keeps up with those things, so that's kind of a new habit for me, is like checking when authors I like have books coming out. So I collected 3 of them, and these are just books that like I've pretty much only recently heard about, but they're by authors that I really like. The first one is Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix and Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I have read 2 Grady Hendrix books, which were both really, really great. I read How to Sell a Haunted House and Final Girl Support Group, so this will be my 3rd Grady Hendrix if I do end up picking it up and reading it, which I really hope I do because it looks really good. And Ava Reid, I have not read anything by her, but I have heard pretty much only praise of her writing and her novels, so I have had my eye on this book, and they both, I think, come out or are expected to come out on the same day in August, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, I don't really like really keep track of new releases, so those are just like ones that I found. Number 5 is biggest disappointment. And I will go on forever if given the opportunity. Womb. I'm just gonna let that sink in for a second. I do not remember the author. I don't care to remember the author. Womb was probably one of the most poorly written books I've ever read. And also just the most unnecessarily disgusting and depraved. There is a line, in my opinion, when the material in a book becomes like just so disgusting and unnecessary. I'm not really sure where that line is. All I know is that Womb crossed it. There were some really odd elements in it that I really don't even want to get into it because it just upsets me so much. But there's just some really weird elements in it. There's stuff that has to do with this mannequin that's really fucked up. And I read it in a day. Not in one sitting, but I did read it in a day. And I put it down. I read it on my Kindle, and I put my Kindle down. And I genuinely had to stare at a wall. It was not pleasant, and I know it's not supposed to necessarily be pleasant. There is a genre of books, which I think that falls under splatterpunk, that is basically just like gore and very gross imagery for the sake of gore and gross imagery, which, you know what, if you get down with that, that's fine. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy it. I am not going to say that people can't enjoy things. Womb was just not for me. And it was a disappointment because I had never read something like it, and I was really excited to see if I liked that sort of extreme horror side of things, but I feel like that was a really terrible introduction. So, in light of that, if you have any sort of like splatterpunk or extreme horror recommendations that aren't going to be like Womb, you can comment those down below. I just feel like Womb had weird, I felt like there was no point to it. So, I don't know if recommendations for that genre are going to be very easy because I'm not giving very much, there's not much substance to what I didn't like about Womb. I didn't think like the gore was too much. Like it wasn't even like super gory. I just feel like there was not much of a plot. Like I know it was a guy who was like telling his life story through these like really vivid and disgusting, almost like vignettes, but it just, there was so much going on that just I didn't think needed to happen. The author was like, I'm just gonna have characters say and do whatever they want, and it's gonna be really gross, and it doesn't matter because I'm writing under this specific genre. Like, it just didn't feel like there was much of a point. A good example of like, now this is not in the splatterpunk genre, but it's in the like depraved and disturbing genre that I actually think did something really well, was Tampa by, I think her name is Alyssa Nutting. That book is fucking disgusting. It's so gross, and it like hurts to read because of the content. If you know the book, then you know what I'm talking about. But I feel like that did it well because it was like something that actually happens. There are people out there that are actually like that. And it was almost comedic in a way. And it made you like disgusted with yourself for reading it. But anyway, I could literally go on about Womb for like hours. That's how much I disliked it. But anyway, another book that I thought was a really big disappointment was The Maid. And I don't want to get too much into this one because this one also just like really frustrated me. But can we just talk about, first of all, Molly the Maid? Okay. Anyway, I thought that whole book was pointless and very predictable. And the reason that it was predictable was because it was laid out in front of you and pretty fucking obvious. And the main character refused to see it for some unknown reason. She just was a little bit silly. And I really did not like that because it made for a really horrible reading experience of, oh, well, I already know what's happening, so, you know, you feel like you're screaming at the book. Can you not see what is right in front of your face? So, I don't need to go into that one anymore, but that was a really big disappointment. Both of those books were 1 stars. Those are my only 1 stars that I've had this year, but they were, like, huge duds. It was terrible. Like just really horrible reading experiences. My biggest surprises, which is the 6th question, would probably be Butcher and Blackbird, honestly. Because, and I think I've mentioned this a lot in my videos, I'm not a romance reader, really. I've read a few. I don't usually find myself drawn to them. I'm not usually all that interested in them, but I picked up Butcher and Blackbird. It was a recommendation from my mother, which, you know, take that how you will. But I thought it was just really fantastic, and I thought it was so fun. And, you know, it was like romancy, and it was kind of spicy, not kind of, it was. And it just worked for me really well, and I think that was a really big surprise because, again, I don't go into romances thinking I'm gonna like them. I think that the reason I liked it so much was because of the serial killer element. I like gross and scary things, which is why I was so surprised I didn't like Womb. But anyway, I'm not gonna keep going on about that. So that like added element of these two characters who are like actually crazy, doing crazy, horrible things that are in love. It's cute. It's like, oh, you guys are gonna go murder somebody, okay, but like you're also so cute, so whatever, it's fine. Butcher and Blackbird really surprised me, and that's why I'm so excited for Leather and Lark. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. And my other biggest surprise was a book I read towards the beginning of the year, which is Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, which is my first Fredrik Backman book. And I was really surprised. I picked it up. Why did I pick it up? I think my friend recommended it to me. Like, I think she actually picked it up off a bookshelf and went, okay, you're reading this. And I was just so surprised because it was so charming and fun. It was a 5 stars, and it was unlike anything I'd ever read before. I really enjoy the fact that it was a very good, like, picture of human behavior and not necessarily judging people based on first impressions, and also just how one event can string so many people together. And I don't know, it was really sweet and very tender and very emotional, and I didn't cry, but it was something that really touched me, and I haven't really found anything quite like that one. I feel like I say that about a lot of books, but that's because I read a whole lot of different genres, so I'm constantly finding different things that can't exactly be recreated in other books unless I try really hard to find one. But yeah, I was really surprised by Anxious People. I didn't think I'd like it. I started reading it and I was like, oh, this does not seem like something I'd like, because it's just so, I don't know, it was very, I want to say eccentric, but I don't know if that's correct. But yeah, it was really fun and just one of my favorite reads so far. Question 7 is favorite new author, and this is either new to you or debut, and I don't think that Butcher and Blackbird was Brynne Weaver's first novel, but I could be wrong, but she was new to me this year, and I need to bring her up at least one more time in this video. I think I'm probably going to bring her up again, because she's one of my favorites. I mean, obviously, I was literally foaming at the mouth to get a copy of Leather and Lark, so that is saying something about her writing and the effect that it had on me, but because I've already talked about her a whole lot, I'm going to move on to someone else. Now, this is not a new writer by any means. I'm pretty sure this book literally came out in the 50s. But James Baldwin, completely new writer to me. I'd heard about him before, but when I say new writer, in my head, I think new writer is like an author that you haven't read before. And I had not read anything by James Baldwin. Giovanni's Room, I think, was the perfect introduction to James Baldwin's work. Now, I'm saying that having not read any of his other work, but I would really like to read some. My next choice, I think, is going to be If Beale Street Could Talk, but obviously I need to get a copy of that, and I am not in the position to be buying books right now, so I need to finish what I have, and then I'll get that. But this was just such an enjoyable book. It was a 5 stars, and I read it in 4 days, I think, which, I mean, 4 days is kind of a lot, but I also was doing a lot of other things, and I also really wanted to, like, sit and almost, like, stew with this one, you know? It was really beautiful, and I'm really glad that I read it. And again, I know James Baldwin is not a, like, debut up-and-coming author or anything like that, but he's new to me, or he was, and I think that this was just, one, it was a huge surprise, and also just, like, one of my favorite books I've read so far. So, definitely want to mention him. My dogs are going crazy right now. It seems like the lighting has improved within like a matter of seconds, so now it's going to be a whole lot brighter. I would love to just refilm the video, but I have got about like 25 minutes of content so far, so I'm not refilming. Anyway, I put my dog away. He is now resting in an air-conditioned room on a bed, so I'm sure he'd prefer that to barking up and down the halls. Question 8 is Newest fictional crush. I'm not usually someone who gets like really, really obsessed with book characters. You know, I save that more for like the bands that I'm into. I would say, if I may bring it up again, Butcher and Blackbird. Honestly, I'm kind of there for both Rowan and Sloane. Like, I like that Sloane is like witty, and I mean, so is Rowan. They're both very witty and snappy. Sloane is very snappy, and I really like that. But I think that Rowan in particular is just really cool. And maybe that's because I read the audiobook, and maybe that's because the voice actor has a really great voice, and I like the way they said Rowan's dialogue. But I would probably say Rowan or Sloane, the both of them. I think that they're probably my newest fictional crushes of the year. But other than that, I haven't really been reading books and like thinking about characters. If I could say like fictional crush of all time, probably Victor from Vicious and Vengeful by V.E. Schwab, but I didn't read that this year. I read that last year, so that doesn't count. And the 9th question is my newest favorite character. And this was kind of easy for me because Priory of the Orange Tree is my favorite book, and it had some of my favorite characters ever. And I would have to say Loth from Priory of the Orange Tree and Ede, they were my favorite ever. Like, Loth, anytime that I was reading about him, I was locked in. I was like, oh, I see Loth's name. Locked in. He was my favorite. I thought he was so fun to follow. I thought that he was so sweet, and I loved all of like the relationships that he had with people. I loved his fun little like side quest that he went on. I loved reading about that, and I constantly was waiting to like turn to another Loth chapter. So I would say probably him, and if not him, then Ede, because you know I feel like she was kind of the glue that had the book bound together. Yeah, so definitely the two of them. Question 10 does not necessarily apply to me. That is books that made you cry. I have not found one that makes me cry this year, which is kind of funny because I'm a big crier at, you know, like movies and books and TV shows, music. I cried a lot of things, and I did not find that a book this year has really moved me all that much. I think the closest probably I got was Anxious People because I found the story really touching, but it didn't necessarily make me cry. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really had a book that's made me cry this year, but who knows? Maybe that'll change. Question 11 is book that made you happy. I read a lot of books that made me happy this year. I could list off a few. I would probably say Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows made me happy. Anxious People made me happy. Namesake made me happy, but the one that I have written down for this one is Check and Mate, which is by Ali Hazelwood. And also, I want to tag on Bride. I had not read any Ali Hazelwood books yet, and those two were so much fun. Check and Mate in particular, I loved Bride, but Check and Mate was just like so I was like smiling and giggling at it. And I've heard that that's like the Ali Hazelwood effect of like, you know, people reverting back to like young teenage girls, like they're just like, oh my gosh, her books are so good. So I kind of got that, even though, you know, I am a teenage girl reading the books, but no, I thought that those were really fun, and they both made me really happy. I need to have a little water break because it is so hot. The next question is the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year, and I have two, and they're both physical. And the first one, you might guess based on my, well, I think it was it my book card video or what I want to read this year. I would not shut up about how pretty the cover was, but that's Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. I just think that this is such a good cover because it's a bug. It's a little bug. He's a little guy. And also just like the color of it I think is really, really great. So, and the spine too. You got a little bug on it, a little beetle guy. Sorry, that did not come into focus, but I don't know. I think that's really beautiful. The other one is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara, which if you know me, you know I read A Little Life, and you know that I love A Little Life, and I will defend that book with my entire soul. Yeah, so I haven't read this one yet, nor have I read Metamorphosis, but it's another big one, and I'm excited to read it. I really am. And I don't know, there's something about the cover that I think is just really beautiful. I got this at a used bookstore for pretty decent price, so that's nice, but it is a little bit kind of like beat up. Anyway, yeah, I think this one's really beautiful. Question 13, what book do you need to read by the end of the year? And this question, out of all of them, was the easiest for me, the most no-brainer of the whole, like, list of questions, and that, it has to be Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I talked about this in my summer TBR video. I have been putting this off for, like, 2 summers, And this is like the summer read that I've wanted to get to for like the longest time. So this is the book that I have to read this year because it's like, it is summer. It is summery. And I've just been kicking myself because I haven't read it yet. So this is like the read that I need to get to this year, or I will be very disappointed in myself, and we don't want that to happen. So I would definitely say Malibu Rising. I don't really have many others that I am like, I need to read. That's such a lie. I do have others that I feel like I need to read, but this is the one that came to my head immediately, and this is the only one that I want to show. And lastly, question 14 is favorite book community member. Now, I'm assuming that I am interpreting this question correctly, and I can just, you know, pick any of the creators that I enjoy. And I would say that this year, my favorite book community member has to be Newly Nova / Lexi. I am like constantly on the edge of my seat waiting for her to release videos. I love watching her content. I love her book recs. She is so much fun. I love the way that she talks. Like, her videos are so much fun to watch because her humor is just so in line with what I enjoy and what is funny to me. And the way that she talks just like really works for my brain. So I found her on TikTok like last year, and you know, I kind of scrolled past her like a few times just because, you know, like you're going through so much book content, it just happens that you scroll past people. And then I don't really remember what it was, but she posted one thing and I just remember being like, oh wow, I really, really like this girl. So I, you know, like followed her, and then she made her YouTube channel, and I just kind of was like immediately hooked when she started making YouTube videos because I think that the like actual long format works really, really well for her. But yeah, she has to be my favorite. I mean, I love a lot of other creators. I could probably list like 10 more people, but I think she's like the absolute top for me. Yeah, she's so much fun. So that was the mid-year freakout book tag. These are all of my answers to the questions, and I think that this was pretty successful. I think I had, you know, like answers for everything. I was a little bit worried that there were going to be like some questions that I wasn't going to be able to answer just because although I've read a lot, it hasn't been a super like diverse reading experience. A lot of things have either like totally flatlined or been like pretty good, but I haven't had like amazing reads that have invoked like super crazy emotional responses. So I was a little bit worried about that, but I don't know. I feel like this was pretty successful, and you know, I've got a lot of things on my TBR that I was able to show for this video, so I think it worked out. But yeah, if you like my videos, make sure to subscribe so that you can join me again. And yeah, thank you for watching. You can find my Instagram and my Goodreads linked in my bio. My Instagram is a lot more book related things. You know, I post what I'm reading and sometimes like excerpts from what I'm reading, like what I've underlined in the book. And my Goodreads is just a way to follow my reading journey a little bit more closely and see when I update, and just again, see a little closer what I do and my reading experience. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and I hope you join me again. Bye!